for the Coke
Yeah.
and the keyboard.
You have to supply your own keyboard.
This is what you would get in the box. XMA, okay, which will bring some cables.
Yep.
This is what we call an XMA, this switch for the black module that gives you not only audio enhancements, but network redundancy as well, which I'll explain to you as I start plugging in stuff. It's labeled as to where it goes and what it does, each one of those ports. Okay. Screws, Ethernet. Nothing special about this cable except the length between the base and this here to connect to the turret. Okay? And your power cables and everything included. This big brick comes with a wide connector, one for the turret here, in the back, which is this one.
Yeah.
No need to do any of this.
Right.
It's a simple, straight connector. I've seen a lot of people go in and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's over. Okay? Very important. Just exactly as you see it, and plug it in. That's it. Okay? Yep. This other end goes to the power, which shows you here, DC end of the XMA. However, before you plug any of this, notice that I haven't plugged this into power. The last thing I will do is plug this into power.
Okay.
But that's after I've hooked this up to the turret. Okay, keep that in mind, please. What could happen is, if you have this plugged into the power, you can reset the VTES connection in here, the way this works. And you have to go through a process that you don't want to go through. Okay? Doesn't mean you broke it, but it will not function the same way.
Even if you repower cycle.
Yes. It may. We fixed the bug that it had, but people always find a way to create new things, new problems, especially if it's loading a firmware and you then unplug it from the power. You know that little message in your computer when you're upgrading something and it says, do not turn off? We have the same procedure.
Is that send it back to you guys, or?
No, you go through a firmware process that you need to reset the ports. Okay, but it's painful. I'll tell you the truth. I've done it many times, but it's painful, and you don't want to waste an extra half an hour when it could be avoided, right?
You need to do one of our printers.
So, you also have your microphone. Get an extra cable here. Your two speakers. Now, one of the speakers can be powered by an output here, which says 12 volts to speaker. But since we have two speakers for each device in this environment, the other one gets powered by this little brick. Okay, which brings the connector for the back of the speaker. All right.
Are there any restrictions on when you plug that brick in?
Again, I usually don't plug in the power until the last, until I've powered the turret itself. But no restrictions. Okay. Each turret will bring one of these cables. Everything is controlled by these ports here. The only thing that goes in the turret back here is in LAN 1, the port, which is the network connection between this and the device.
Okay.
Your Ethernet cable from your network comes into port 1 of this device. Okay?
But you can have multiple Ethernet cables.
You are not using multiple at the moment, so just your concern is only port 1 for the Ethernet. Okay?
And then the turret must go to the turret one.
That's correct.
PC is for...
That's a completely different ballgame. That is if you want to use the PC as a monitor and or a control device for this or the turret. So you guys will never use the PC. You have no reason. So your main concern at this very moment is just Ethernet-wise, network-wise, will be your port 1. The others of course, the turret goes to turret. You also have your 12 volts to speaker, and then you have your handset 1 and 2 in your headset connector, as well as your left and right speaker and the microphone, which is all with an icon here. Okay? So far, so good? All right, so first thing I do, normally this would have a base, but this is a broken one, which we're using for training purposes. But I already did configure this today, and I tested and it works fine, but we'll go through the whole procedure
Okay.
regardless, okay? So normally this has a base. This goes here, like this. Of course, with the ports pointing to where you can use that wire and connect the network. And you have another kind of base here that leans back and you're able to tilt it. But for now, what I will do is, I will use, again, this is the cable we extend, but the only special thing about this cable is the length. It's just a regular straight through Ethernet cable, okay? So I could use any one of these cables. So as you can see, I will be using a cable did I take it? An Ethernet cable I took, I thought I did. But I could use any one of these cables here.
And then you also see the ideal place to put the asset tag, right?
Underneath the, yes, underneath the,
Yeah, they put
whatever
it
they call it, that thing.
I don't know why, but that's what they did.
That's wonderful.
So, first thing I do is, I locate my turret port here. And I put it in line 1 back here.
In LAN 1, okay.
Line 1, okay? By the way, this 4 USB cables, USB ports, one will be your push-to-talk foot pedal.
Okay,
The other one would be your push-to-talk handheld.
okay,
The other one has to be your USB headset, which is only USB based. And this one here, depending on what else is being used, you can use either for what is called super user management, meaning you're going into the device and changing certain configurations, or it could be used by anything else that we have internally here. As
does
far
it matter
as-
which order they're in?
No. Good question. It doesn't matter.
what OS are these running?
That's what we're going to go through. We had XP in most of our devices for the last 2 years. We're now migrated to Windows 7. Keep in mind that when I say Windows 7, it's not the Windows 7 that we build in a computer. It's kind of our own version of Windows 7, in the sense that we only do 10% of the upgrade for the device specific needs. So that way you have to do less during the year. Any upgrades, any type of updates.
What are ours in here? XP or Windows?
This are Windows 7. However, the reason why I'm going through this training is because you may get one that has XP built in there, and you need to reset it. You need to re-image it, the same way you would a computer. So that's the procedure that I will be going through as well. Okay? So, your Ethernet connection. Remember that I said everything gets hooked up except for your connection from the turret to the XMA. This is called an XMA, by the way. XMA to turret. You need that connection. I'm going to start now by the microphone, which I just plugged the microphone with the where's this microphone?
Slide over one second. Look at the 306.
I got my microphone. We got a speaker. Each speaker inside will bring one of those cables that I have here as well. Okay. I already took that one out. So, remember that I said that I always leave the power for last? So at this very moment, all I am hooking up is, now since I have that turret on the left, the assumption here is that this will be here, and this will be my left speaker, because this will be here like this. And I have a right speaker, which, if you look here, okay, it's on this side. And check out my other speaker. Okay. Remember that I said one speaker can be powered by. You may have a case where one of these cables may be bad. I don't bump into them often, but it's good to keep in mind. So once I power this, if my 12 volts to speaker doesn't light up my speaker, it could be very well be the cable. Okay? Extremely rarely do I have this output, power output, go bad at the XMA. The most likely case is
Cable.
the cable or the speaker. Very unlikely, however, it's usually this cable, for whatever the reasons may be. Okay? So I have my
Is that
two
just
speakers.
Yeah.
By the
And the
way,
same for-
anytime you're plugging into this, do not. I've seen people say, yeah. Then I go back and you have 3 or 4 broken XMAs. Power. Why? Because they start doing this. There's no need for that. It's just hold it straight out. Simple as that. Now, no matter how many times I tell people, they're like, yeah, go home. Then they call me with an emergency, saying, oh, the power's not working. I get there, and this is an inch wider than it used to be. Seriously. Or it's up. Remember, it's physical, so if you and I start doing this, it's not going to work too well. So, simple as that. Okay? Now this, of course, has its own power supply as well. So, which is this guy, which supplies the turret and the device. Now, again, yeah, I have it close to the outlet, but I'm not plugging any power in. The big guy here, well, let me show you this. This is the way it comes. Okay? It's only a matter of flipping this, putting this like, another thing, this one too. Do not star. Very simple to break. I usually do this. I go in here and it goes in fairly quickly. Okay? Big guy goes to the big guy here. Again, this, do not start doing this. It's a simple in, and that's it. Okay? And he has an arrow up, which tells you that that's the way it's going to be connected. This guy goes to the main DC in here. Okay? So far so good. We don't have a headset with us, but